The thunder cracked outside Ryan Armstrong's tiny apartment window as he frantically stuffed towels against the sill, trying to prevent the growing puddle from reaching his 6-year-old daughter Lily's homework on the kitchen table. The leaky ceiling had been manageable until tonight's sudden downpour turned it into a serious problem, matching the storm of troubles he'd been weathering ever since his wife's death 2 years ago. "Daddy, is the rain going to come inside and get me?" Lily asked, clutching her worn teddy bear against her chest, her blue eyes wide with worry. Ryan forced a reassuring smile as he wrung out another soaked towel into the bucket. "Not on my watch, Princess. Besides, Mr. Snuggles here would protect you, right?" He tapped the bear's nose playfully, earning a small giggle from his daughter. At 32, Ryan had never imagined he'd be a widowed single father working 3 jobs to make ends meet. His main employment at the community center as a computer skills instructor paid poorly, but the flexible schedule allowed him to be there for Lily when she needed him. His weekend maintenance work and evening freelance IT troubleshooting barely covered the rent for their small 1-bedroom apartment in East Side Chicago, but he made do. Lily slept in the bedroom while he took the pull-out couch, an arrangement he insisted was perfect despite his aching back every morning. "Time for bed, Lily Pad. You've got school tomorrow, and Mrs. Hensley doesn't like sleepy students," Ryan said, picking up his daughter and carrying her to her room. "But I'm not tired," she protested through a yawn that contradicted her words. After tucking Lily in and reading her favorite story about a brave princess who rescued herself from a dragon, Ryan kissed her forehead and waited until her breathing became slow, and even before quietly shutting the door. He returned to the kitchen table where his laptop sat open, displaying a half-completed freelance project he needed to finish before morning. His phone buzzed with a text from his friend Marcus. "Emergency job. Client desperately needs data recovery. Paying premium? Interested." Ryan glanced at the leaking ceiling and the growing collection of bills on the counter. He texted back immediately. "Address." The rain was still pouring when Ryan arrived at the upscale Lakeshore Drive address Marcus had sent. The doorman eyed his worn jacket suspiciously, but directed him to the penthouse. Dripping on the pristine marble floor of the elevator, Ryan wondered what kind of emergency data recovery someone in a place like this would need at 11:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. When the elevator doors opened directly into the penthouse foyer, Ryan found himself face-to-face with a woman whose presence commanded attention despite her obvious distress. Her auburn hair was pulled into a messy bun, her makeup-free face revealing freckles across her nose, and she wore what appeared to be expensive loungewear. "Are you the IT guy?" she asked, her voice strained but still melodic. "Yes, Ryan Armstrong. Marcus sent me." "Fiona Keller," she replied, extending her hand. "Thank you for coming so quickly. My laptop," her voice cracked slightly. "I have a major presentation tomorrow morning, board of directors. Everything was on there and now it won't turn on." Ryan nodded, following her into a spacious living room that was minimally but expensively furnished. A sleek laptop sat on a glass coffee table, surrounded by scattered papers and empty coffee mugs. "I was just finishing the presentation when the screen went black." "I've tried everything I know, which admittedly isn't much," Fiona said, running a hand through her hair in frustration. "I'd call our corporate IT department, but at this hour." "May I?" Ryan gestured to the laptop, and Fiona nodded eagerly. As he sat down and examined the machine, Ryan noted it was a top-of-the-line model. "What happened just before it went dark? Any unusual noises or warnings?" Fiona sighed. "It made a clicking sound, then nothing. I have backups of most files, but not the presentation I was working on." 6 weeks of work, gone. Ryan connected a small portable hard drive to the laptop and began running diagnostic tools. The atmosphere was tense as Fiona paced behind him, occasionally looking over his shoulder. "Do you mind if I ask what kind of presentation this is?" Ryan inquired, trying to distract her from her obvious anxiety. "It's a proposal for a new environmental initiative our company is launching. If approved, we'll be revolutionizing how corporations handle waste management and carbon offsets." The passion in her voice was evident, making Ryan glance up from the screen. "Sorry, I tend to get carried away when talking about work." "No need to apologize for caring about something," he replied with a small smile. "My dad always said passion is what separates a job from a calling." Fiona stopped pacing. "Your father sounds wise." "He was," Ryan said simply, returning his focus to the task. After nearly an hour of careful work, Ryan managed to bypass the corrupted system files and access the hard drive. "I think I've got something," he murmured, navigating through recovered folders. "Is this it? Eco-Future Presentation Final Draft?" Fiona rushed over, her face brightening. "Yes, that's it." She leaned close to him, her perfume something subtle and expensive momentarily distracting him. "I'll need to recover the entire drive to make sure the files aren't corrupted," Ryan explained, trying to maintain his professional demeanor despite her proximity. "It'll take some time." "I'll make coffee," Fiona decided, heading toward what Ryan assumed was the kitchen. "How do you take yours?" "Black is fine, thank you." As Ryan worked on the data recovery, Fiona returned with 2 steaming mugs. "So Marcus mentioned you're a single dad." Ryan accepted the coffee gratefully. "Yes, I have a daughter, Lily. She's 6. "That can't be easy," Fiona remarked, settling into an armchair across from him. "It has its challenges," Ryan admitted, "but she's worth every one of them." Their conversation flowed surprisingly easily as the recovery progressed. Ryan learned that Fiona had worked her way up from an entry-level position, though she was vague about exactly what her current role was. He found himself sharing more than he normally would with a client about Lily's recent school play, his work at the community center, and even a little about losing his wife to cancer. "I'm sorry," Fiona said softly when he mentioned his wife. "That must have been incredibly difficult." Ryan nodded, suddenly self-conscious. "It was, still is sometimes, but we're finding our way." He cleared his throat. "Good news, I've recovered all your files. The presentation looks intact." Fiona's relief was palpable as she came to sit beside him, shoulder to shoulder as they reviewed the recovered files. "You're a lifesaver, Ryan. Truly." As the night stretched into early morning, Ryan finished transferring all the recovered data to a new secure drive and installed it in her laptop. By 4:30 a.m., the system was running again. "There you go," Ryan said, stifling a yawn as he closed the laptop. "Good as new. You might want to consider a cloud backup solution, though, for future reference." Fiona smiled, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her. "Noted." "What do I owe you for this miracle?" Ryan named his standard fee, deliberately not charging the emergency rate despite Marcus's text. Something about charging extra when she was clearly stressed felt wrong. Fiona raised an eyebrow. "That's not nearly enough for what you've done." She wrote a check for triple his quoted amount and handed it to him. When he tried to protest, she held up a hand. "I insist. You saved me from a disaster of epic proportions." As Ryan gathered his equipment, Fiona walked him to the elevator. "Thank you again," she said, her voice warm with gratitude. "Not just for fixing my laptop, but for the company. It was nice not to face this crisis alone." Their eyes met briefly, and Ryan felt an unexpected connection, something he hadn't experienced since before his wife's illness. He quickly looked away, reminding himself that women who lived in penthouses on Lakeshore Drive didn't date struggling single fathers. "Good luck with your presentation," he said, stepping into the elevator. As the doors closed, he caught a last glimpse of Fiona's smile. The next morning was chaos as usual, with Ryan rushing to get Lily ready for school after only 2 hours of sleep. His neighbor, Mrs. Patel, a kind elderly woman who often helped with Lily, noticed his exhaustion. "Another late-night job?" she asked as she helped Lily tie her shoes in the hallway. "Yeah, but it was worth it," Ryan replied, thinking of the check in his wallet that would cover the overdue rent and maybe even fix the leaking ceiling. "You work too hard," Mrs. Patel chided gently. "Let me take Lily to school today. You get some rest." Ryan was too tired to argue. After thanking Mrs. Patel and giving Lily a goodbye hug, he collapsed on the pull-out couch, intending to sleep for just an hour before heading to his shift at the community center. He was awakened 3 hours later by his ringing phone. Marcus's number flashed on the screen. "Man, what did you do for Fiona Keller last night?" Marcus demanded without preamble. Ryan sat up, instantly alert. "I recovered her files." "Why? Was there a problem?" "Problem? Dude, she's the CEO of Keller Innovations. You know, the tech giant that just bought that new building downtown. She called me personally to thank me for sending you." Ryan froze. "CEO, but she didn't mention that." "Well, she wants to hire you full-time for her IT department. She said, and I quote, 'I need someone with his expertise and integrity on my team.' What the hell does that mean?" Ryan's mind raced. Fiona was a CEO. The woman in loungewear who had made him coffee and listened to stories about his daughter ran one of the fastest-growing technology companies in the Midwest. "I have no idea," Ryan finally said. "Look, I've got to get to work. I'll call you later." After hanging up, Ryan stared at the ceiling, trying to process this information. The check he'd received suddenly made more sense, but the ease of their conversation, the connection he'd felt, had that been real, or just a CEO being nice to someone helping her out of a jam? Later that afternoon, while helping an elderly man set up an email account at the community center, Ryan was surprised when the center's director approached him. "Ryan, there's someone here to see you," she said, an unusual note of deference in her voice. When he looked up, Fiona was standing in the doorway of the computer lab, looking completely different from the disheveled woman he'd met the night before. Now she wore a tailored navy suit, her auburn hair falling in soft waves around her shoulders, and carried herself with unmistakable authority. Several of the center's patrons were staring at her with undisguised curiosity. "Miss Keller," Ryan said, standing up, "this is unexpected." "I hope I'm not interrupting," she replied, her voice professional but her eyes warm. "Could we talk privately for a moment?" Ryan excused himself to his student and led Fiona to a small break room. The space suddenly felt inadequate with her presence filling it. "So, you're the CEO of Keller Innovations," Ryan said, trying to keep his tone light. Fiona had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "I should have mentioned that. Sometimes it's nice to just be Fiona, not Miss Keller, CEO, especially at midnight when I'm having a crisis." Ryan nodded, understanding all too well the desire to be seen as a person first, rather than a label. "What can I do for you, Miss Keller?" "Fiona, please." She took a deep breath. "I'd like to offer you a position in our IT department. The head of our cybersecurity team was impressed with your recovery methods, apparently. What you did should have been nearly impossible given the state of my hard drive." Ryan blinked in surprise. "You showed my work to your cybersecurity team?" "I didn't have to. When I mentioned what happened, our tech team examined the laptop. They were quite impressed and asked who had performed the recovery." Fiona smiled. "The position comes with a significant salary increase from what I suspect you're currently making, full benefits, and flexible hours that would accommodate your responsibilities as a father." The offer was tempting more than tempting. It was like a lifeline being thrown to a drowning man. No more leaky ceilings, no more working 3 jobs, no more wondering how he'd afford Lily's growing needs. "Why?" he asked simply. "You don't know me. I could be terrible in a corporate environment." Fiona's expression softened. "I know enough. You were honest about your fee when you could have charged me an exorbitant amount. You were kind when I was stressed, and I've seen your work firsthand." She paused. "Plus, I may have looked up the computer skills program you run here. The testimonials from your students are impressive." Ryan felt a mix of emotions: gratitude, suspicion, hope. "Can I think about it?" "Of course," Fiona replied, handing him a business card. "Call me when you decide. The offer has no expiration date." As she turned to leave, she stopped at the door. "By the way, my presentation was a success." The board unanimously approved the initiative. Ryan smiled genuinely. "I'm glad. It clearly meant a lot to you." "It did," she agreed. "Thank you again, Ryan." After Fiona left, Ryan stared at the elegant business card in his hand, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The salary she'd mentioned would transform his and Lily's lives. But was it right to accept what felt like charity? That evening, as Ryan helped Lily with her homework, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Fiona. Hope you don't mind, I got your number from Marcus. No pressure on the job offer, but I'm giving a talk at the Children's Science Museum this Saturday about women in technology. Thought Lily might enjoy it if you're free." Ryan stared at the text, unsure how to respond. Was this professional networking or something else? "Who's that, Daddy?" Lily asked, looking up from her math worksheet. "Just someone I helped with computer problems," Ryan replied, setting his phone down. "Like you help Mrs. Patel when her internet stops working?" "Something like that," Ryan said, smiling at his daughter's simplified understanding. Later, after Lily was asleep, Ryan responded to Fiona's text. "Lily loves science. What time on Saturday?" The Children's Science Museum was crowded when Ryan and Lily arrived on Saturday morning. He'd spent extra time getting Lily ready, combing her hair into neat pigtails and making sure her favorite galaxy-patterned dress was clean. He'd even ironed his own shirt, something he rarely bothered with. "Are we really going to meet a real scientist, Daddy?" Lily asked excitedly as they navigated through the throng of families. "She's not exactly a scientist, sweetie. She runs a technology company," Ryan explained, scanning the crowd for Fiona. "Does she make robots? Mrs. Hensley says girls can make robots too." "Mrs. Hensley is absolutely right," came Fiona's voice from behind them. She was dressed more casually today in jeans and a blazer, her company logo subtly embroidered on the breast pocket. Lily stared up at her with undisguised curiosity. "Are you the robot lady?" Fiona laughed, crouching down to Lily's level. "I'm Fiona. And while I don't make robots myself, my company does work on some pretty cool technology. Would you like to see some of it?" Lily nodded enthusiastically, immediately taking Fiona's offered hand. Ryan watched in amazement as his normally shy daughter chatted animatedly with Fiona while they walked toward the presentation area. The talk was geared toward children, with Fiona explaining complex technological concepts in ways that captivated the young audience. Ryan found himself impressed not just by her knowledge, but by her genuine enthusiasm and ability to connect with the children. Lily sat transfixed, occasionally squeezing Ryan's hand when something particularly exciting was demonstrated. After the presentation, Fiona introduced them to some of her team members who had brought prototype gadgets for the children to interact with. Lily was delighted when she was allowed to operate a small drone through a simple tablet interface. "She's a natural," Fiona remarked as Lily successfully navigated the drone through a small obstacle course. "You've clearly encouraged her interest in technology." "She takes after her mother," Ryan said quietly. "Caroline was an engineer before she got sick." Fiona's expression softened. "I'm sorry, that must be difficult for both of you." "It is," Ryan admitted, "but it helps to see parts of Caroline in Lily, her curiosity, her determination." They watched Lily for a moment in companionable silence before Fiona spoke again. "Have you thought any more about my offer?" Ryan hesitated. "I have. It's incredibly generous, but I can't help feeling there's more to it than just being impressed with my technical skills." Fiona looked at him directly. "Would it be inappropriate to admit I enjoyed talking with you that night? That I found your dedication to your daughter admirable? That perhaps I'd like to get to know you better, regardless of whether you accept the job." Her honesty caught Ryan off guard. "That would be very inappropriate," he said with a small smile. "And complicated. You're a CEO. I'm a single dad working multiple jobs to make rent. And yet here we are," Fiona replied. Look, the job offer stands on its own merits. Your skills are valuable to my company, as for the rest. She glanced at Lily, who was now showing an older child how to control the drone. Maybe we could start with friendship. See where it goes. The genuineness in her expression made something shift in Ryan's chest, a wall beginning to crumble, when he hadn't even realized he'd built since Caroline's death. I can do friendship, he said finally, and I'll accept the job offer. Lily deserves a more stable life than what I've been able to provide. Fiona's smile was radiant. Excellent decision on both counts. You start Monday. The transition to Keller Innovations wasn't easy. Ryan's new colleagues, while professional, were clearly curious about his connection to the CEO. For her part, Fiona maintained appropriate boundaries at work, treating Ryan like any other new hire, though he occasionally caught her watching him from across the room during company meetings. Their friendship developed slowly over the following months. Fiona would join Ryan and Lily for weekend outings to the park or museum. They discovered shared interests in classic films and obscure indie bands. Ryan found Fiona easy to talk to about his struggles and joys as a parent, while she confided in him about the pressures of running a major corporation. On a warm evening in May, 4 months after Ryan started at Keller Innovations, he invited Fiona to dinner at their new apartment, a spacious 2-bedroom in a safe neighborhood, made possible by his new salary. "This is lovely, Ryan," Fiona said, admiring the simply but tastefully furnished living room. "You've made it a real home." "Lily helped pick out the colors," he replied, gesturing to the bright teal accent wall. "She's very proud of her design choices." Lily, who had been showing Fiona her new bedroom, came running into the living room. "Can we eat now, Daddy? I'm starving." Dinner was a simple affair. Ryan had prepared his specialty pasta dish, and they ate at the small dining table with Lily chattering about her school day. After dinner, when Lily was engrossed in a movie in her room, Ryan and Fiona sat on the balcony with glasses of wine. "I never properly thanked you," Ryan said after a comfortable silence. "For what?" Fiona asked, looking at him curiously. "For changing our lives." "This apartment, my new job, the stability for Lily, it's all because you took a chance on me." Fiona shook her head. "I didn't take a chance, Ryan. I recognized talent and integrity when I saw it. You've more than proven your worth to the company." Ryan looked out at the city lights. "Still, I never expected any of this when I showed up at your penthouse that night." "Neither did I," Fiona admitted. "I was just desperately trying to save my presentation. I never expected to meet someone who would make me rethink my priorities." Ryan turned to her, surprised. "What do you mean?" Fiona took a sip of her wine before answering. "I've been so focused on building my company that I forgot to build a life outside of it. Spending time with you and Lily has reminded me there's more to living than quarterly reports and board meetings." Their eyes met, and Ryan felt that same connection he'd experienced the night they first met, only stronger now, rooted in months of growing friendship and mutual respect. "Fiona," he began hesitantly, "I need to ask, is this still just friendship? Because lately I've been feeling like maybe it could be more," she finished for him, her voice soft. "I've been feeling that too." Ryan set his glass down and took her hand. "I haven't felt this way since Caroline. It's scary, but also, right somehow." "I know," Fiona whispered. "I've never met anyone like you, Ryan. Someone who sees me as just Fiona, not as a CEO or a Keller." Ryan smiled, remembering their conversation in the community center break room months ago. "Well, you are pretty impressive as a CEO, but I prefer just Fiona." In the gentle evening light, with the city spread out below them, Ryan leaned forward and kissed her. It was soft and tentative at first, then deepened as Fiona responded. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. "So, what happens now?" Ryan asked. "Now we figure it out together," Fiona replied, squeezing his hand. "One day at a time." 1 year later, Ryan stood in the kitchen of the house they'd bought together, a modest but comfortable home with a backyard where Lily could play. He was preparing breakfast while Lily sat at the counter, carefully writing an invitation. "Do you think Sophie will want to come to my birthday party?" she asked, referring to Fiona's niece who had become a frequent playmate. "I'm sure she will," Ryan assured her. "And remember, it's not just your birthday we're celebrating." Lily grinned knowingly. "It's also your anniversary of meeting Fiona. That's why we're having a special dinner after my party." Ryan nodded, smiling at his daughter's excitement. The past year had brought changes he could never have imagined, not just financial stability, but emotional richness as well. Fiona had become an integral part of their lives, her strength complementing his, her love for Lily genuine and unwavering. The sound of the front door opening announced Fiona's return from her morning run. She entered the kitchen flushed and smiling, immediately going to Lily for a hug despite her sweaty state. "How's the invitation coming along?" she asked, peering at Lily's careful handwriting. "Almost done." "I'm using my best handwriting because it's special," Lily declared. Fiona caught Ryan's eye over Lily's head, her expression filled with love and contentment. They had taken things slowly, mindful of Lily's feelings and the complexity of blending their lives. But the journey had been worth every careful step. Later that evening, after Lily was in bed, Ryan and Fiona sat in the backyard under the stars, reminiscing about the night they'd met during that thunderstorm. "You know," Fiona said, leaning against his shoulder, "I almost called a different service that night. Marcus was my third choice." Ryan chuckled. "And I almost turned down the job because I was so tired." "I'm glad you didn't," Fiona said softly. "Sometimes I think about how many little decisions had to align for us to meet." "My dad would have called it fate," Ryan replied, wrapping his arm around her. Fiona turned to face him. "Speaking of fate, I have something to ask you." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I know this is traditionally the man's role, but we've never been traditional, have we?" Ryan's breath caught as she opened the box to reveal a simple but elegant platinum band. "Ryan Armstrong, you came to my rescue when I was in crisis, never knowing who I was or what I could offer in return. You showed me what true strength and integrity look like. You and Lily have brought joy and balance to my life that I never knew was missing." Her voice trembled slightly. "Will you marry me?" Ryan's eyes filled with tears as he pulled her close. "Yes," he whispered against her hair. 1,000 times yes." As they sealed their promise with a kiss, Ryan marveled at how a desperate late-night call about crashed computer files had led to this moment of perfect happiness. Neither of them could have predicted that night would change their lives forever, bringing together a struggling single father and a powerful CEO in a love story that defied expectations and reminded them both that sometimes the most unexpected connections become the most meaningful. And in the bedroom upstairs, Lily slept peacefully, dreaming of the expanded family she'd soon officially have, complete with a new mother who had already claimed a piece of her heart, just as she had claimed her father's.